Okay, so chapter 1102 was sad, man. No, it's really sad. And what makes it sadder is the context that this whole flashback is being presented in. This entire flashback is what Bonney is seeing in the memory bubble, of which is why she was crying during the events of chapter 1090, right? So what makes this all the worse is that not only does she see the trials and tribulations that her father has gone throughout his life, she sees the exact moment in which he expires as a human being. The weight of that is something I don't think I have seen in another shonen manga, in which you actually see the moment and the strife presented in that moment when Vegapunk is forced to wipe the light from Kuma's eyes. And what's also super interesting about Kuma as a character, from when we first see him rolling up to Marineford with Doflamingo back in the day, is that it was always a weird speculation of what his eyes were. But from this flashback, we know that the entire time up to which Vegapunk pulled the trigger, he was just wearing glasses. His eyes may have like weird modifications, but those modifications are on the lines of like what Frankie did to himself. Like, they're still human eyes, just with enhancements. So the whole glasses thing was simply an aesthetic, and he still had the light in his eyes behind them. That is why there's a particular scene in chapter 1102 that kind of cements the change for me. Is when after Vegapunk pulls the trigger, his eyes are completely white. He's not wearing any headgear. He's not wearing glasses. His eyes are just white, which means he's actually gone. And the weight of that simple artistic choice, it speaks so many volumes about what is actually going on here. And what makes matters worse is that Bonney is seeing this. She's also seeing the actions of Luffy through Kuma's eyes, which really cements the idea of her joining for me, because you have to remember Shabandi or Shabodi, because many people have said I pronounce it wrong. It's a force of habit. I was reading the manga where that wasn't animated. Okay. I just kept saying Shabandi or Shabodi, whatever. So in Shabodi, right? That's when we first meet Bonney. That is, of course, when she saves Zoro from cutting up Charlos, and when Luffy punches Charlos in the face. So it's very interesting that the two have a weird interaction with Charlos, and she now gets to see Luffy's interaction with Charlos through Kuma's memories. And I just find that very interesting. And I think that alone makes Luffy very admirable in her eyes, because after all this time, she probably has gained what the Celestial Dragons are about. And what makes it worse is that she now knows the circumstances of her own creation, thanks to looking through the memories of her father. So she knows that she is the daughter of a celestial dragon through unsavory means, which is it's a heavy thing to think about. And I know no one has actually pieced that together, but the fact that she knows is also just very heavy. The fact that she knows that she was brought into this world through unsavory practices, and then her father was presented with an option to save her, and then eventually met his end, to be a slave to the people who perform these unsavory acts to her mother. And now she has the full context of pretty much all of that from viewing the memory bubble. I just can't get past how heavy all of this is. It does present Luffy in a very good light, but at the same time, it's incredible just how tragic her backstory is. I would put it up there with Brooke, because Brooke so far is the most tragic Straw Hat, at least to me. Now, it's also very interesting, and I don't think this is something that a potential Straw Hat has ever gotten. A sort of small recap of the Straw Hat's adventures from a different person's perspective. So that in itself is just an interesting concept, because she knows that Luffy came up and beat Arlong, so she knows about Arlong from Kuma, which is interesting because that gives her insight to what Nami is about, which also gives her insight to what Jinbei is about, which is kind of interesting thinking about that now. Also, she knows the resolve of Zoro and how loyal he is to his captain and how much he will sacrifice in order for his captain to reach his dream. That is also admirable and will probably make her feel very good about saving him during the events of Shibodi Archipelago. So all in all, that is very cool and very good. But just thinking about all of that gives her such a weird leg up on the importance of the journey that the Straw Hats have been on since the start of the story, basically. Also, I'm kind of wondering how she feels about the whole Nika thing, because one of Kuma's final memories is that he's equating Luffy to Nika. I don't know how many people are getting that. Like, he now accepts that if there really is a Nika out there, Luffy most likely is him. And just hearing somebody say that, even though I will say there's no dream being established just yet, I think that will be a personal resolve for Bonney after all this information digests in real time, and maybe when we're back on the ocean. But it's just a very interesting concept to think about. Like, what do you do when the deity that your father and mother believed in during their lives is now kind of in front of you? You had a banquet with the person who presumably is this deity. There's just a lot to process with Egghead, especially seeing as how the anime has just opened with Egghead as of this past weekend. So anime watchers, if you're watching this, I'm sorry for all the spoilers, but you have a lot to look forward to, and I can't wait to see a lot of this animated. But it's very interesting just how much gravity this memory bubble has put on Bonney as a character. I think she's a fantastic character. If you want my just basic opinion on her so far, I think her backstory is one of the most important backstories that we have ever gotten out of anyone in the Supernova group. Because Laws was sad, but Law I wouldn't consider an essential character. Bonney at least feels essential to Luffy's journey because she believes in him. And belief kind of brings us back to the core principle of why the Straw Hats exist as a faction. They all believe in Luffy. So with Bonney coming from the jump with this strong belief in Luffy, kind of makes me think that she will be a member in the near future, because she already has the raw belief in the person, because her father had the raw belief in the person known as Monkey D. Luffy and equates him to the deity that he has followed for all of his life. So why wouldn't Bonney follow Luffy if he is the deity of all of the concepts that her father has instilled within her? It just makes sense that she would follow him, and that would be a great fit for the role of apprentice. I'm not sure what that would entail of. I don't think she would be doing chores, because I halfway think she would be doing funny things to get out of doing chores, because she's a child and that's what children do. She'll probably be bribed into doing them, if anything, by Nami most likely, or Nico Robin. Like, if you do your chores, you can have 18 pieces of pizza tonight or something like that. But that's just something to think about. And the fact that we've gotten so much camaraderie between her, Luffy, and Chomper, and then some pre-established camaraderie between her and Zoro, it's all just very interesting, and I can't wait to see how the story progresses, especially seeing as how she is 12 and Sanji is in trouble once again. So can't wait to see how that pans out and how disappointed he will be when he finds out that she is a baby. But yeah, give me your thoughts.